All right, class, today we're going to do our notes for identifying constraints and interpreting solutions. You can ignore that day 8. That's when we're face-to-face every day, and that's not what kind of schedule we're on. All right, so a lot of words on this, but you'll see when we break this down, it's really not all that complicated once we figure out what we need to pull out of all these words. All right, so it says Larry is planning a huge Labor Day party that he does every year for his friends and family. He has $100 set aside, so that's the most he can spend is $100 to spend on food for the party. He is trying to decide how many pounds of chicken to buy and how many steaks to buy. The chicken sells for $2 a pound, so the chicken is $2 a pound. Excuse me, while the steaks sell for $5 per steak. So out of all those words, what I underline is really the only thing that's important to us. We've got $100 to spend, chicken is $2 a pound, and steaks are $5 per steak. So as we go along in this semester, we're gonna get better and better at what to pull out of a word problem and what we're gonna use. So we're gonna write an equation using two variables, two letters, right? We're gonna use C and S to represent Larry's purchasing decision. Define your variables. Well, the variables are defined for us. C is going to be pounds of chicken. S is going to be number of steaks. We're going to write an equation. Well, chicken is $2 per pound. So that's quite simply $2 per pound for chicken. Plus, steaks sell for $5 per steak. Well, instead of using that S, because that's going to look like a 5, I'm going to use a script S. And then equal to how much money can we spend? It's actually going to be less than or equal to, right? We can spend $100. We can spend $99, which is less than 100. We can spend 98, but we cannot spend 101, excuse me. All right, so next we're going to use your equation to figure out how many steaks he can buy if he gets 20 pounds of chicken. Well, we said C stands for chicken. Now we're going to buy 20 pounds of it. So right here, we didn't know how many pounds we were going to buy. Now it's telling us how many pounds we're going to buy. So it's going to look like this. We're going to have 2. We're going to plug 20 into that C, and then everything else is going to stay the same. So that 2 is going to stay out front, plus 5S is less than or equal to 100. All right, guys, now we're just solving for S. We're trying to figure out how many steaks we're solving for S. 2 times 20 in your calculator is 40. Now we're just solving a two-step equation. First step that we're going to deal with is we're going to move the constant. Well, in this case, the constant is positive 40. So we're going to subtract 40 from both sides. That's going to leave us, going to go up here, that's going to leave us 5S is less than or equal to 100 minus 40 is 60. Next, we're going to move the coefficient. Well, it's 5, so we're going to divide by 5. And 60 divided by 5 is 12. So it asks how many steaks he can buy. He can buy 12 steaks. Number 3 asks us how many pounds of chicken can he get if he buys 10 steaks. So now all we're going to do is we're going to plug 10 in next to steaks. We're going to plug 10 in right there. So we don't know how many pounds of chicken he can buy yet, but we do know he's going to buy 10 steaks at $5 per steak, and he cannot spend more than $100. So this one's going to turn out to be 2C plus 5 times 10 is 50. What you have to get good at is every time we plug a number in for a variable, the rest of the equation does not change. The rest looks identical to what we had up here. The only difference is we're plugging 10 in for S. So my next step I need to move the constant. It's a plus 50, so I'm going to subtract 50. I'm going to go up here and write my next equation. That's going to be 2c less than or equal to 100 minus 50 is 50. Next, move the coefficient. C is less than or equal to 25. So he can buy 25 pounds of chicken. It's a lot of chicken. I'd go with a steak myself, but a lot of chicken. Number 4, solve your equation for steaks, or S, in terms of the pounds of chicken. Because all it's telling us to do is solve for S. So this goes back to what we did last week, solving literal equations. We've got this equation. And we need to get S by itself. First thing we're going to do is we're going to move this 2c to the other side. So to do that, it's got to switch signs. Well, look, I can't take 2c away from 100, so I'm just going to write negative 2c plus 100. Next, I'm going to divide by 5. Pay attention, when I divide by 5, I've got to divide everything by 5. Those cancel. That gives me S is less than or equal to negative 2 over 5 C plus 20. It's saying equation, so that's really equal to, but it's not that big of a deal. All right. But the bottom line is he has $100 to spend. That's what we're trying to get at. So there's our equation. We're done. S is equal to negative 2 over 5C plus 200. I guess it would be equal because, well, it doesn't really say. Anyway, this set equation, so I changed my inequality to equation. Next, we're going to graph the equation you just came up with in problem 4. So we're going to graph this. Guys, that is really in slope-intercept form, right? That's going to be my slope. So in this case, my slope is negative 2 over 5. And B is my y-intercept. So in this case, my y-intercept is 20. So before I label this graph, I'm going to go ahead and say my y-intercept is 20. My slope is down 2 to the right 5. All right. Let's number our graph here. And guys, you will never be responsible for numbering your own graph on a test. I will number it for you. But I'm going to number, all I'm going to use are these two numbers right here on this one. So I'm going to count by 2's going up. And I'm going to count by 5's going to the right. But again, you will never have to do this. Not for a grade, at least. You will never have to number your own graphs. I will always number them for you. Doesn't mean we're not going to try to do it in class, but on a quiz or a test, I would do it for you. Okay, so now we're graphing this equation right here. Well, we just figured out my y-intercept is 20. Well, here's my y-axis. Go to 20 on the y-axis and put a point. Now we're going to use my slope. This tells me to go down 2 and to the right 5. Well, remember, I numbered by 2's. So down 2 would just be to the next line. And then I numbered by 5 going this way. So over 1 would be 5. So I'm going to go down 2 and to the right 5. Down 2 and to the right 5. 2 and 5. 2 and 5. 2 and 5. I'm going to keep going all the way till I reach my x-axis, which is there. So again, remember we counted by 2's here, so that's really down 2. Even though it's one line, it's down 2, and even though it's one line across, it's really 5. So there is my graph. I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler or straight edge, whatever you have. Give me a second, I'm trying to work around my little gadget holding my phone. So for the most part, that's my graph right there. Next, it says find the minimum and maximum pounds of chicken. Well, forgot to tell you all this, but this bottom one is pounds of chicken. And this top one is, or this one coming up, is steaks. So what's my minimum and maximum pounds of chicken? Well, I could buy 0 pounds of chicken. That would be part of that line right there. Or I could buy 50 pounds of chicken. So I know my answer is going to be somewhere between 0 and 50. So now we're writing as an inequality. Because all we have to do is put the letter we're talking about in the middle. And then it's going to be 2, what looks like less than. So basically what this says is I can buy 0 or more pounds of chicken, but it has to be 50 or less. So somewhere between 0 and 50. Just remember that that's what your inequality is going to look like. Make sure you have lines underneath them, and you'll be good to go. All right, so now let's find the minimum and maximum numbers of steaks we can buy. Write your answer as an inequality in terms of S. So now S is going to be in the middle. My inequality is going to look like that right there. So now, my steaks, so now I'm talking about how many steaks did I buy right here on the graph? Well, that would be 0 again. And then what's the most amount of steaks I could buy and still stay under $100 or at $100? And that would be 20. And all we did was we looked for the highest Y value and the lowest Y value, which would be 0 would be my lowest and my highest would be 20. Number 8, identify the points representing your answer to problems 2 and 3 on your graph. So let's go back to 2. So on number 2, it told me that I'm getting 20 pounds of chicken. So my C equaled 20. And then we figured out that my steaks, I could get 12. So now we're going to look for this. I said that, remember, your pounds of chicken's down here and your steaks are this way. So really it's not X and Y, it's C and S. So go to 20 for the pounds of chicken and then go up till we hit 12. So there's 20, there's 12. So 20 pounds of chicken, 12 pounds of steaks, there's that point. That would be for number 2. And that's all we have to do. Identify the points representing your answers to problems 2. There's 2. Now let's do 3. Well, in 3, it told us that we were buying 10 steaks. So my S was 10, and we figured out that we could buy 25 pounds of chicken. So go over to 25 on the chickens, pounds of chicken, and go up to 10. There would be 10. So now that would be my point that goes with number 3. All right, so that's it. You'll have another video for the second part of the notes. It'll be down below.